What happens when a business mogul with an ego the size of Manhattan strolls onto late-night television thinking he owns the place, only to face a host who refuses to play along? Tonight, we're diving into one of the most explosive moments in late-night history. A confrontation so tense it ended with security being called and a guest escorted off set. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below, because this story has more twists than a New York pretzel. The green room at the Ed Sullivan Theater buzzed with its usual pre-show chaos. Makeup artists hovered with brushes, production assistants dashed by with clipboards, and nervous laughter filled the air. Donald Trump sat in a leather chair, straightening his tie and checking his reflection in the mirror for what had to be the 10th time. His media handler, a tense woman in her 30s, kept glancing at her watch. "Remember, Mr. Trump, this is supposed to be a light segment about your new book, and maybe some real estate," she reminded him gently. "David likes to keep things conversational, maybe even playful." Trump waved her off. "Please, I've been doing television since before that gap-toothed comedian knew what a camera was. I know how to handle David Letterman." She bit her lip, wisely choosing not to argue. Experience had taught her that some clients only learned the hard way. Meanwhile, in his office just off stage, David Letterman reviewed his cue cards with his head writer. Each card listed potential talking points: book promotion, casinos, golf courses, the usual fare for a Trump interview. Letterman nodded absently. But there was something in his expression, a flicker of intent that hinted he had other plans. "You know," he said, "I've been reading some interesting things about how he treats contractors and handles payments. Might be worth bringing up." His writer looked up warily. "Dave, you remember what happened last time someone mentioned his bankruptcies?" He walked out. Letterman smirked. "Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. Maybe it's time someone asked real questions instead of tossing him softballs." 20 minutes later, the familiar late show theme filled the theater. Letterman stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause, his monologue sharp and knowing. "Our next guest," he announced, "is a man who needs no introduction, though he'll probably give himself one anyway." The audience laughed. "He's got a new book. He builds things, he owns things, and he's got opinions about everything. Please welcome Donald Trump." Trump emerged, confident as ever, flashing smiles and waving. He shook Letterman's hand and took his seat, angling himself toward the audience. "Donald, good to see you again," Letterman began, rifling through his cards. "Great to be here. Dave, love the show, great crowd, great energy. Though I have to say your ratings could use a little work." Letterman's smile didn't waver, but his eyes sharpened. "Well, we're holding our own just fine. Thanks for your concern. So, tell us about the new book." "It's called The Art of the Comeback," Trump said, his voice swelling with pride. "Already a bestseller, of course. It's about overcoming every obstacle, how anyone can win if they've got the right mindset, and let's be honest, the right genes." "The right genes?" Letterman repeated, eyebrow raised. "Absolutely. You either have it or you don't. Intelligence, drive, natural ability. Some people are born winners. Some are born losers." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Letterman leaned back, studying him. "That's a pretty harsh way to see the world, don't you think? What about people who work hard but didn't start with your advantages?" Trump's expression stiffened. "Look, I started with a small loan from my father and built an empire. Anyone could have done what I did if they had the vision and intelligence. Most people just don't." "A small loan?" Letterman echoed, deadpan. "How small are we talking?" $1 million, Trump said without hesitation. "But in business, that's pocket change. I turned it into billions. That's the difference between the winners and the rest." Letterman set his cards down slowly and met Trump's gaze. The room held its breath. $1 million is pocket change," Trump said confidently. Letterman blinked, his tone sharpening. "Donald, do you have any idea what $1 million means to most families in America? That's more money than most people will ever see in their entire lives." Trump's smile faltered, just slightly, but he recovered. "Dave, you're missing the point. It's not about the amount. It's about what you do with it. You give most people $1 million and they'll waste it. Cars, vacations, nonsense. 5 years later, they've got nothing. Me? I multiplied it thousands of times over." Letterman tilted his head, almost amused. "Maybe. But don't you think it's a little tone-deaf to call $1 million loan from your father pocket change when some people are just trying to pay their rent? The temperature in the studio seemed to drop. Trump's charm gave way to irritation. His voice grew louder, tighter. Now wait just a minute, Dave. I didn't come here to be lectured about economics by a comedian who's never made a real business decision in his life. I build skyscrapers, casinos, golf courses. What have you built? Besides a career making fun of people like me? Letterman's smile returned, but it was no longer friendly. Well, Donald, I built a career on asking questions people actually want answered. And right now, I'm curious about something I read recently, about how you treat the people who work for you. A ripple of unease moved through the audience. Letterman leaned forward, his tone calm but cutting. Trump sat back, his jaw tightening, the posture of a man bracing for a hit. What exactly are you getting at, Dave? He asked, his voice carrying a warning edge. I've read reports about contractors on your projects, Letterman continued. A pattern of them not being paid what they were promised. Small business owners, family companies, folks who say they did the work but never saw the money. Trump's face reddened. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. That's absolutely false. And frankly, I'm insulted you'd bring up garbage like that on national television. My company pays everyone what they deserve. We have the best legal teams in the country to make sure our contracts are solid. Letterman didn't flinch. But these aren't rumors, Donald. These are court filings, public records, from dozens of contractors over the years. Are all of them lying? I'm saying, Trump shot back, that in business sometimes people don't hold up their end. Sometimes work's late, or not up to standard, or there's a legitimate dispute. That's business. That's the real world, not some fantasy land where everyone gets a participation trophy. Letterman glanced down at his desk, shuffling through a few papers. Trump's eyes followed the movement, wary now. So, Letterman said, when a small electrical company in Atlantic City says you owed them $80,000 and they settled for $20 just to avoid bankruptcy, was that their fault for not doing quality work? I don't know what case you're talking about, Trump snapped. And I don't appreciate being ambushed with this nonsense. You said this was about my book and my success story, not some hit job based on failed contractors who couldn't hack it in a competitive industry. The audience was silent. Even Paul Schaffer, normally quick with a quip, sat frozen behind his keyboard. The tension was unmistakable. Donald, Letterman said evenly, I'm not ambushing you. These are public records, facts anyone can verify. I'm just asking how you justify leaving small business owners high and dry. Trump pushed himself halfway out of his chair before sitting back down, visibly agitated. You want to know how I justify it? He barked. I justify it by building a multi-billion-dollar empire, by creating thousands of jobs and contributing more to the economy than you ever will. I justify it by succeeding, while people like you sit in studios taking cheap shots. Sit down, Donald, Letterman said firmly. We're not done here. His tone carried the quiet command of a man who had spent decades owning that stage. I think the audience deserves to understand how someone who calls himself a great businessman can leave so many people holding the bag. Don't tell me to sit down, Trump snapped, his voice rising. This is supposed to be an interview, not an interrogation. I've been on TV longer than you've been hosting, and I know a setup when I see one. A setup? Letterman leaned forward, unruffled. Donald, these are your own business records. I'm not inventing anything. If asking about your documented practices feels like a setup, maybe the problem isn't the question. Trump leaned forward now, too, jabbing a finger toward Letterman, his composure gone. Trump leaned forward, eyes flashing. You know what your problem is, Dave? You've been doing this show so long you actually think you're a journalist, but you're not. You're an entertainer, and not even a good one anymore. Your time's up. Everyone knows it but you, the audience gasped. The jab landed hard. Letterman's expression darkened. The easy late-night grin vanished, replaced by something colder, sharper. My time's up? He said evenly. Let me tell you something, Donald. I've been in this business long enough to recognize a bully when I see one. And right now, I'm looking at a man who thinks he can intimidate his way out of answering real questions about how he treats working people. Trump shot back immediately, his voice rising. You want to talk about bullying? You invited me here under false pretenses. You're attacking my reputation with unsubstantiated garbage in front of a national audience. If anyone's a bully, it's you. Unsubstantiated? Letterman said, holding up a sheaf of papers. Donald, I've got the court documents right here. Want me to read the case numbers? These aren't rumors. These are legal judgments. Cases where your company settled for less than you owed. Trump stood now, his face red with fury. You know what, Dave? I don't need this. I don't need to sit here while some washed-up comedian tries to look relevant by tearing down someone who's actually accomplished something. Sit down, Letterman said firmly. We're in the middle of an interview. The interview's over. Trump started ripping off his microphone. I'm done with this garbage. Letterman rose too, his voice now matching Trump's volume. You can't just walk away every time someone asks you a tough question. That's not how the real world works, Trump barked out a laugh. The real world? You want to talk about the real world? In the real world, results matter. Success matters. I built an empire while you built a career out of stupid human tricks. The crowd erupted, some booing, others cheering. The tension in the studio was electric, volatile, like a powder keg waiting for a spark. Letterman stepped forward, his voice low and cutting. In the real world, Donald, successful people don't have to stiff contractors to pad their profits. Successful people keep their word. They treat their workers with respect. What you're describing isn't success, it's exploitation. Exploitation? Trump snarled. You want to see exploitation? Look at television. Networks cancel shows overnight. They toss people aside when the ratings dip. Don't lecture me about exploitation when your whole industry runs on it. We're not talking about TV, Letterman said, standing his ground. We're talking about you and your documented history of not paying people what they earned. Trump was yanking the last of his mic cord free, his movements sharp, angry. I don't owe you or anyone else in this room an explanation for how I run my businesses. I've been more successful than anyone here, especially you. Dave, you peaked in the 80s. The studio was a storm now, half the crowd shouting for Trump to sit, the other half egging him on. The Late Show had turned into a boxing ring. Two heavyweights circling, each looking for the knockout. Trump held his microphone in his hand like a weapon, voice booming across the stage without it. You want to play hardball, Dave? Let's play hardball. You want to talk about business practices? How about yours? How much do you pay your writers, your crew? How much do they make while you take home millions? Letterman's tone stayed steady, but his words were steel. This isn't about me, Donald. This is about you and a pattern of cheating working people out of money they've earned. Cheating? Trump barked, gesturing toward the audience. That's slander, Dave. You just accused me of cheating people on national television. That's actionable. I've got witnesses! Letterman didn't blink. I've got court records, Donald. Legal settlements. Documented cases where your company agreed to pay less than the contracted amount. That's not slander. That's fact. Trump stepped closer, jabbing a finger toward Letterman's desk. Those are business disputes, not cheating. That's negotiation. That's how the real world works. Contracts change when circumstances change. When the work's late or not up to standard. Circumstances, Letterman shot back. Like small business owners who can't afford to fight you in court for years. Like families who can't wait for your lawyers to finish playing games while they lose everything. The audience was shouting now, some for Trump, some for Letterman. The energy was chaos, raw and unpredictable. The Late Show had stopped being entertainment. It had become something else entirely. An open confrontation between power and accountability, live on national television. You don't know what you're talking about, Trump snapped. You sit in your ivory tower making jokes about people who actually work for a living. People who build things, who create value. You're nothing but a parasite feeding off other people's accomplishments. Letterman stepped out from behind his desk, moving closer. A parasite, Donald? I've been entertaining people for 30 years. I've given thousands of people jobs, supported charities, used this platform to help others. What have you done besides enrich yourself? Trump's face tightened. What have I done? I've built hotels that employ thousands. I've created jobs in construction, hospitality, entertainment. I've revitalized neighborhoods that were dying. I've done more for working people than you ever will. By not paying them what you owe, Letterman shot back. By giving them opportunities they never would have had, Trump retorted, his voice rising. By taking risks. By creating jobs when others were too scared to try. That's called leadership, Dave. Letterman laughed bitterly. Leadership? Leadership is keeping your word. It's honoring commitments. It's not hiding behind lawyers when someone asks for what they've earned. Trump slammed his microphone onto the desk. The sound echoed through the studio. I don't have to listen to this garbage from someone who's never built anything, never risked anything, never put his own money on the line. You don't know a thing about the real world. Get away from my desk, Donald. Make me. The words hung in the air like a live wire. The audience fell silent, sensing that they were witnessing something volatile and historic. Letterman's voice dropped to a low, steady warning. I'm asking you one more time. Sit down, and let's finish this interview like adults. Adults? Trump sneered. Adults don't ambush their guests. Adults don't invite someone on under false pretenses just to attack them with baseless accusations. They're not baseless, Letterman said. Every word I've said is documented and verifiable. Trump lifted the microphone again, and for a moment it looked like he might throw it. Instead, he held it up, then lowered it slowly. You know the difference between you and me, Dave? I fight back. When people attack me, I don't sit there and take it. I fight and I win. This isn't a fight, Donald, Letterman said evenly. It's an interview. You're being asked to account for your actions. Account to you? Trump sneered. You're nobody, Dave, a failed comedian who got lucky with a time slot. And now you think you're some kind of moral authority? Let me tell you something about moral. Before he could finish, 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the stage, summoned by the frantic producer visible in the wings. Trump noticed them and exploded. Are you kidding me? You're calling security on me? On your own guest. I didn't call anyone, Letterman said coolly. But maybe ask yourself why they thought they needed to come out here. This is unbelievable, Trump fumed. I come on your show as a favor to boost your pathetic ratings, and this is how you treat me. Ambush questions and security guards? One of the guards stepped forward, calm but firm. Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. Don't touch me, Trump barked, backing away. I know my rights. This is assault! Nobody's touching you, sir. We're just asking you to come with us. Trump looked around the studio, searching for allies. The audience sat frozen in disbelief. Cameras were still rolling. Letterman stood behind his desk, arms crossed, waiting. This is the biggest mistake you've ever made, Dave, Trump hissed. When people see how you treated a guest, a successful businessman, they'll know your career is over. My show will be fine, Donald, Letterman replied evenly. The question is whether you'll be fine when people see how you handle being asked simple, legitimate questions. Trump started toward the exit, then turned back one last time. You're washed up, Dave. Your time is over, and everyone knows it but you. This pathetic stunt to stay relevant? Embarrassing. Thanks for stopping by, Letterman said dryly. As the guards escorted Trump off stage, his voice echoed through the studio. You'll regret this, Dave. Nobody treats Donald Trump like this and gets away with it. Then he was gone. Letterman straightened his tie, brushed the desk, and looked directly into the camera. Well, folks, he said calmly, that's something you don't see every day. We'll be right back after this commercial break. As the show cut to black, the audience sat in stunned silence, still processing what they'd witnessed. In the wings, producers scrambled on phones. Somewhere in the building, Donald Trump was still shouting about lawsuits and revenge. It would go down as one of the most explosive moments in late-night television history.